My 7th grade math class, it was just so awkward. And probably because it's 7th grade. I remember I had so much on my mind, right? Like, I am so hungry. When is lunch going to be? Or, oh, wait, was there social studies homework? I totally forgot about that. In the midst of this, pre-algebra, the minute the class started, my teacher would call out a few names and then a few of the homework problems. And we'd have to go to the board and write down the homework problem and our strategy and our solution for solving it. Then the teacher would go around the room and put a big check mark or an X if you got the problem right or wrong. Basically telling you and the entire class if you are right or wrong. Every day I dreaded going to class, and I would hope that I wouldn't be one of the names called. So much was going on in my mind. My handwriting on the board is terrible. Everyone's going to laugh at me. Oh man, I think I might have some stains on my clothes. Everyone's going to laugh at me. Oh, why am I having to go right after Jasmine, who is such a good math person? Everyone's going to laugh at me. You might have had experiences like this, or not, in your own math classrooms. Math makes us nervous, and math causes anxiety. Hi, my name is Theodore Chao. I'm an associate professor of mathematics education in the Department of Teaching and Learning at The Ohio State University. And today I want to talk to you about how we talk about math. Many of us have never engaged in an actual mathematical conversation before. Sure, we've been quizzed on math or asked to share what we got for an answer, but we haven't really experienced what it's like to connect to another person, to talk with someone about mathematical thinking, to join minds, to share about how we might solve a problem together. And so I want to share with you some ways that we can talk about math with our students so that we don't have to go through the same anxiety-induced experiences that some of us might have had in math. The roots of educational inequity are used to sort people by whether they're math people or not. And this is false. One of the biggest problems in math teaching today is that it's used to evaluate and judge our children, using math as a proxy of intelligence. This has roots that go all the way back to eugenics, a fake science that was used to push that differences between race actually led to differences in intelligence and ability. This was used to justify things like colonization and slavery. Terrible stuff. And we've known for generations about the problems of using math tests to sort women and people of color out of any academic pipelines. These are terrible things, and math has been essential to it all. What we really have to do as educators, as adults, as a society, is to stop getting in the way of children's abilities to develop their own mathematical identities. We need to stop creating systems that cause children to doubt themselves. And we need to open up venues so that all children have the opportunity to see themselves as math people. Frankly, we just need to stop teaching math in ways that make kids hate math. And this can be done by just a few adjustments to how we talk about math to our children. So I'm going to tell you about 5 pointers that can help children build trust in their own mathematical thinking, in their confidence, and how they can invoke their own right to make sense of the math that they learn. First, there's no such thing as a math person or a non-math person. Stop thinking, I'm bad at math. I'm just not a math person. In actuality, most adults in the world think that they're not a math person. It's not that you're bad at math. It's that math has been used as a violent weapon to oppress you, destroy your confidence, and make you not trust your very own thinking. By telling you that you're bad at math, you voluntarily have removed yourself from roles where your ideas, your thinking, your voice, and your story matter. The fact that you are alive today and doing the work that you do means that you use math. You are a math person. 2, everybody has math anxiety, and usually it's not about math. So math anxiety is a real thing. The majority of adults have some form of math anxiety. But when we as educational researchers try to test or measure math anxiety, we found some pretty interesting things. Mainly that math anxiety and testing anxiety are highly correlated. In fact, they actually might be the same thing. So what we call anxiety about math, or what we call fears of math, might actually be our anxieties and fears of testing, about being quizzed, about being judged and evaluated for things that we might or might not fully understand. And honestly, who enjoys being tested? Of course, that's a traumatic experience. So you might not actually have math anxiety at all. You just might have anxiety about a testing situation that might have felt really terrible. 3, remember, faster isn't smarter. Many of us have experience with things like time tests or math flashcards. And okay, yeah, it's important to be able to automatically recall certain math facts so that you can be efficient with math in the real world. But that's really for adults. For children, what's the point of memorizing math facts without understanding? It's almost as if we're asking children to memorize a list of vocabulary words without actually defining or having children think about what those words mean. When we focus on speed in math, then, when we give our students flashcards and force them to memorize things automatically without thinking about them, what we're telling them is that we want them to act more like robots, to act more like calculators, than we want them to act like humans. All children have the ability to reason. Give them time to think through and figure out the math problem on their own. If they do that, they'll construct their own understanding. And the problems that they solve will then be the ones that they love because they discovered them themselves. For instance, many of us might have a favorite multiplication problem from when we were a kid. I loved the fact that 12 times 12 always equaled 144. I love the symmetry of that problem. I love that 12 was multiples of 6, of 4, of 2, of 3. And so allow children to have spaces so they can also work on the problems and figure them out and play with the intricacies themselves. That'll lead to better memorization than just focusing on a flashcard. 4, who's doing the thinking? Who's doing the talking? In a math class, the person who does the most talking is usually the one who's doing the most thinking. So pay attention to who's doing the most talking. Is it the teacher? Is it the children? For instance, if your math class follows a format of an I do, we do, you do approach, think about where the thinking is happening, right? So in an I do, we do, you do approach, if I was a teacher, I would say, hey kids, here's the lesson. Let me show you how I do it. And then I'd say, everyone, let's come together and we're going to do this together. And I'm going to ask you one word, single answer questions. What do we get here? What did we notice here? What goes here? And then I'll give you some practice problems to do it yourself. Now, in reality, the I do, we do, you do approach just focuses on students' obedience. Students are just watching what I do, mimicking it, and then doing it on their own. Make sure that there's space for thinking and conversation to happen in your math class. And finally, listen for thinking, not for a correct answer. So many of us say that we like math because in math, you know when you're right or wrong. You know when there's a solution. For instance, 2 plus 4, what does that equal? It has to be 6, right? So if we get 6, we know we're right. If we don't get 6, we know we're wrong. Well, it's not that simple. 2 plus 4 does equal 6 in base 10. But in other bases, we have other answers. This means that as teachers, we have to get out of the habit of just grading or looking for a correct answer. To focus only on one answer is exactly the sort of surface-level testing that leads to mathematical anxiety. Instead of focusing on the correctness of an answer, and remember, there actually is no such thing as a wrong answer. As teachers, our job is to figure out what problem the kids thought that they were trying to solve, what strategies they use, and whether these strategies show their understanding or not. Wrong answers are actually wonderful spaces because they allow us to get into misconceptions that students have that we didn't know. They allow us to look at confusion, and they allow us to laugh at the silliness of human error, right? Saying that 4 plus 6 equals 5. Whoa, I'm sorry, it meant 10. But humans make arithmetic mistakes all the time, and that's fine. So let's celebrate errors for the humanness, and let's focus less on the answer and more on the thinking. These tips aren't just for you in the math class. It's for anyone and any adult who engages in math talk with children at all. Parents, the adults, people in the community. Think back to your own mathematical journey. Some of us have had some amazing teachers and experiences that allow us to make mistakes, to analyze our own mathematical thinking, to engage in math talk with others, and to grow confident in math. Others might not have been so lucky. We might have had experiences like what I shared about, in which I froze every time I had to go to the board to share my math solutions for my homework. This fear, this anxiety, this dread that come with having to publicly perform and be shamed in my math thinking, of course, these things can create lifetime trauma and avoidance of math. So think about the ways that you're connecting to your students as humans. How would you feel if you were a child in your own class? What spaces do your children have to engage in and explore their own mathematical thinking? And what spaces do they have to feel loved and supported, to make mistakes and learn from them? And finally, how are you connecting? How are children building and connecting to each other in their own mathematical thinking? I want to thank you, particularly the teachers out there, for all the hard work that they do to honor our children's mathematical thinking. Teaching math, it doesn't have to be hard, but it also doesn't have to be dehumanizing. So thank you for all the work that you do. My name is Theodore Chao, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. Thanks for listening.